my password.
All right,
Not the
we
first try.
are on. Mics are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council workshop. For those of you who needed an agenda, they are on the rail, and workshop is a time for council to get reports and updates from staff, as well as talk about items that may be coming up on future agendas. We will also cover several executive session items today after we finish the workshop agenda. So we're happy to have you here with us, and we would ask if you would please silence your cell phones, and we will get started. Our first update and report is the CTC application, and that is with Janet Curry. And Janet, if you would, for the benefit of the public, explain what CTC is and how it helps us, please.
Sure, absolutely be glad to do that. The ORI CTC is a group of individuals that have been tasked by our legislative delegation to proportion out funds that we receive to our county through the gasoline tax. And so with that, municipalities, counties, and even DOT themselves attends the CTC meetings to request additional funding to support road projects in their jurisdiction. And so for us, we have been attending CTC meetings quite regularly over the past few years, and we have obtained a few $1 million in grant funds, pure grant funds, to help resurface our roads. So it's a wonderful benefit for our community, and we have focused the last few years on a number of state roads within our neighborhoods for the benefit of our residents. So this morning, I would like to give you a brief update on what we are planning to resurface in the upcoming year of fiscal year 26 with our city funds, and then also share with you the complement project that we are presenting to ORI CTC next week to resurface some additional roads. So this first slide is sharing with you the proposed fiscal year 26 annual road resurfacing. A majority of that project that we have is going to be associated with Celebrity Circle around Broadway at the beach. We're going to add St. Thomas Circle as well as Fairway Road. And that comes to about $1.4 million. In terms of our street ends, we have two, based upon we're trying to stay in that 100,000 range of 28th Avenue South and 26th Avenue South for next year. And then the complement road project from ORI CTC is $1.1 million. And for the benefit of the public, I'm going to read these roads, so bear with me. There's a number of them, but it is very important. Country Club Drive, that is part city, part state, and that segment is from Woodside Avenue to Louise Drive. 28th Avenue North, Kings Highway to Ocean Boulevard. 35th North, Kings Highway to Ocean Boulevard. 5th Avenue South, Boundary Street to Highway 15. Charlotte Road, Boundary Street to Boundary Street. Columbia Drive, Boundary Street to Charlotte Road. Todd Circle, Charlotte Road to the end. Hammond Drive, Charlotte Road to 3rd Avenue South. Hawthorne Lane, 63rd Avenue North to 65th Avenue North, and as well Wildwood Trail from 63rd North to 65th North. Our next ORI CTC meeting is next Tuesday on the 10th of June at 7 o'clock, and we will be presenting these roads. So we are investing millions of dollars in our city infrastructure, road resurfacing, and requesting, again, that $1.1 million from the CTC. Any questions or
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, if you would please get with me after the meeting for the letter that I need to write to the chairman. We also need to include how much money we're investing ourselves. That was one of the prerequisites.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Janet, I am sure there are people in this city that want their road paved. There might be some people in this room that want their road paved. How do you decide on which roads to ask for?
At this time, it is a windshield survey assessment. We look at the roads on an annual basis. We ride them. We look for defects, rideability, and they are prioritized and ranked. And that's how we move forward with what we bring to our capital project every year.
So it's the roads that need them
Yes, it's prioritized based upon the condition
and the money we have.
and the money that is available, absolutely. And sometimes, you know, as well, even as late, you know, with asphalt, the prices have fluctuated, right? So when we go out to bid for projects, you know, we anticipate having X number of roads, but sometimes it would be over budget if we did all of them, so we have to scale back and put a road on for the next year. That has happened recently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. All right, Meredith is going to come up and give us a branding update.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
While they're getting set up, I'll go ahead and just give you a general update before Andy joins us from Florida. So as you know, our team of 5, after going through the bidding process, accepted the bid from the Zimmerman Agency to do our branding project. They're based out of Florida. The project's going super well. I'd say we officially launched at the beginning of April when we did our week-long work sessions. We had 120 people go through those, which was super impressive. I was very proud and happy that we had so much community buy-in. It wasn't just city employees, it was also area stakeholders, business owners. We pretty much had every department from the city represented. We had people from Gulf Tourism Solutions, the Chamber, Horry County Schools, United Way, Habitat for Humanity, the Art Museum, downtown business owners, oceanfront business owners. We had a great community representation when we went through this process. And you're about to hear from Andy, who, good morning, Andy, is the president of advertising for the Zimmerman Agency. He's been the liaison and my go-to guy through this process. We talk a couple times a week. And the presentation you're about to hear from him is the foundation for the branding. So it's basically what came out of those work sessions, and it's the foundation for the direction that we're going to go with the branding process. There's a couple things I just kind of want to make a point of. The city seal is not going anywhere. The city seal is staying. It will always be a part of the city. Our idea is that that will be used in more formal situations. First in Service is staying, and you're going to hear him talk about a tagline, which so far has been very well received from our branding committee and other city leaders, senior staff that have heard this presentation. And that, again, is the foundation, sort of like the launch pad for where we're going with this logo and branding project. And right now we are in the design phase, but I'll go ahead and hand it off to Andy.
Thank you very much. And it's nice to meet all of you. And on behalf of the Zimmerman Agency, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate in this milestone project for the city of Myrtle Beach. And so as Meredith said, this is going to be a strategic document. You're not going to see logos and colors and things like that. That's in development now. But this is our strategic framework that we use as a guidepost. And the theory behind it is that it would be crazy for us to go away and do a brand without talking to the stakeholders in Myrtle Beach. And so we had wonderful participation, as you'll see going forward. And I will share my screen now and we can get to it. All right. I always like to start these presentations with a quote, a famous quote, or something that's really representative of the feeling that I got throughout the days that I was there. We did 10 sessions in 5 days. And the quote here is, "Service is not a matter of political correctness. It's the key to growth." And as Meredith said, first and service is not going away, and you'll see service baked throughout this. And so what we're going to do is take you through a little bit of the methodology here, and then the what we call truths, which are the highlights from the sessions themselves, as well as some category insights and relevant trends that are happening in place branding for cities. And then we'll take you through the building blocks of momentum, ending with the personality, positioning statement, and brand promise, which becomes our platform for launching this exercise creatively. Our methodology is called Momentum, and it's we do a lot of destination branding and city municipal branding, and it's our proven method that helps brands realize their ambition, which is how we want the world to see the city of Myrtle Beach in the future and accelerate this opportunity for growth. I always like to say that this is not an advertising idea or a PR idea or social media idea. It's a business idea first and foremost, and it should influence the way that we think as a brand, how we plan, and how we execute the brand going forward. There are 3 sections I'm going to take you through. The first is what we call the truths. This is an honest look at your world, aspects that affect your current position, including trends, insights, facts, and opinions of your constituents. The ambition is how we want the world to see us, and I like to call this the North Star for the brand. And then momentum idea is just a fresh new approach that bridges the truths of where you are now to the ambition of where we want to go going forward. So let's give it a spin. We're going to go start talking about the truths themselves. We did from April 7th to 11th, we had 120 participants citywide, and we did a series of interactive exercises that are designed to really carve out what makes the city of Myrtle Beach relevant to people and differentiating from others. We did word sorts, and we did archetype exercises with celebrities. We did time machine exercises where we thought about 3 years into the future, if this is really successful, what does it feel like for the city of Myrtle Beach? And so I'll start with the first thing, which is a tombstone exercise. I challenged all of the groups to say, if there was no city of Myrtle Beach municipality, what would the world miss? What would the world miss without us? And we do this to get at the heart of what we want to be doing. And so just to take you through some highlights here, you get the things that you would expect from a municipality: first responders, safety, quality of life, service, innovation. And then you get things like safety and clean beaches and trash pickup. And then also, I always like to point out the emotional things too, because the emotional things can't be copied. So friendliness, welcoming, beauty, culture. These are all things that people would miss if there was no city of Myrtle Beach to guide the residents and the visitors. First in service obviously appeared a lot. Caring people, culture, family vacations, a heritage and history that maybe people don't know about. Family vacations again, public works, law and order, and then things like community and fun are there too. So a lot, really rich texture behind what the world would miss if there was no city of Myrtle Beach. And then we moved into what we call time machine, and I challenged everybody to say, 3 years into the future, if we're really successful, what does this feel like for the city? First thing is the city of Myrtle Beach's differentiation lies in our welcoming, friendly community for all. And you'll see word clouds that I've created in each of these where we had people, I coded all of the responses and made, the bigger the words are, the more they were spoken by the people there. Myrtle Beach is a welcoming community dedicated to creating a happy and safe environment for its people with a culture rooted in innovation, care, and hospitality. The city proudly balances its traditions and with opportunities for transformation and growth. At the heart of Myrtle Beach is a commitment to service, unity, and improving the lives of all who call it home. In thinking about the target for this branding effort, our brand must reach and impact both residents and visitors. The City of Myrtle Beach should focus on creating meaningful experiences for residents, families, and visitors by fostering a community that welcomes everyone with open arms. By prioritizing the needs of residents while ensuring visitors and businesses feel valued, the city can build a lasting connection and a thriving, welcoming environment for all. Our sense of community and culture is strong, and I love this slide because it shows, I mean, when you look at the word cloud, you see these words like vibrancy, joy, community, kindness. These are emotional words that we can layer into the strategy. In Myrtle Beach, residents and visitors alike enjoy a vibrant blend of fun, culture, and Southern hospitality that creates joyful and memorable experiences. The city's focus on kindness and authentic community connections ensures a sense of comfort, warmth, and pride for all who experience its unique charm. Our greatest strength as a city municipality is the friendliness, affordability, and of course, the beach. Residents and visitors love the city of Myrtle Beach for its stunning ocean views, beautiful beaches, and the welcoming friendliness that embodies Southern hospitality. The sense of community and safety paired with its nostalgic charm and vacation vibe make Myrtle Beach a favorite destination for relaxation and connection. And I would add home to that for the residents. The best way to tell our story, not surprisingly, in the digital age is word of mouth or social media, or the best, it can best tell its story through these authentic storytelling vehicles that highlight the experiences shared widely on social media, photos, engaging videos, and leveraging word of mouth to propagate this. Local brand ambassadors and influencers, the city can create a digital presence that inspires visitors and residents to share their love for Myrtle Beach. The city of Myrtle Beach facilitates a sense of belonging and community. Again, the emotional words, belonging, happy, community, people. The city of Myrtle Beach evokes a sense of belonging and happiness where people feel welcomed, supported, and safe within its friendly and vibrant community. With something for everyone, it combines the comfort of home with the excitement of fun and new opportunities, creating an atmosphere of care and connection. Our biggest challenge will be overcoming misperceptions and changing the narrative forward. The city of Myrtle Beach faces challenges in overcoming persistent misperceptions that fuel negativity and hinder its evolving identity and vision. Balancing rapid growth of the city, infrastructure demands, and revitalizing areas like downtown while fostering transparency, unification, and community buy-in remains critical to reshaping its narrative and ensuring long-term success. And I would like to add here that this is why it's important to do this exercise strategically first. We want to, this is not just a beauty pageant of logos and colors. We want to be really rooted in strategy first. The city's most loyal supporters care and are optimistic about the future. The city of Myrtle Beach's most loyal supporters feel a deep sense of pride, belonging, and connection to a vibrant community that embodies safety, care, and authenticity. They trust in the city's dedication, transparency, and consistent efforts to provide affordable opportunities, quality services, innovative growth, making it a place where they're proud to call home. Again, optimism, belonging, authentic. Our city brand should focus on unity, collaboration, and the future. The word forward was used many times in these sessions. Moving forward, the city of Myrtle Beach is committed to embracing its untapped potential by leading with innovation, collaboration, and a unified One Myrtle Beach vision. By owning the narrative and creating happy memories for the next generation, the city aims to elevate its excellence, foster new beginnings, and move forward into a brighter future. And so you'll see as I move through this deck, the funnel narrows. And so just some key foundational themes that came out of those first two exercises. Differentiation and innovation. Myrtle Beach should embrace its unique identity by blending authenticity and Southern hospitality with innovation and elevated experiences. The city must own its narrative and move forward with bold ideas that highlight its strengths, such as the vibrant culture, the beautiful beaches, and the opportunities for growth for consumers and business owners. Community itself. Strengthening connections among residents, visitors, and businesses through collaboration and transparency will help foster a sense of unity and belonging. Prioritizing safety, care, and community engagement will ensure that all voices are heard, seen, and answered. Experience-driven growth. By focusing on creating joyful, memorable, and welcoming experiences, Myrtle Beach can enhance its reputation as a vibrant playground for families, visitors, and residents alike. Leveraging tools such as social media, storytelling, and brand ambassadors will amplify the city's appeal while addressing the misperceptions. Revitalization and resilience. Addressing challenges such as downtown revitalization, infrastructure demands, and misperceptions is critical for reshaping the city's narrative. Myrtle Beach should focus on unification, transparency, and strategic investments to build trust and support positive change. Sustainability and opportunity, emphasizing affordability, quality of life, and accessible resources will attract and retain both residents and visitors. By capitalizing on untapped potential and fostering optimism for the next generation, Myrtle Beach can ensure consistent growth, economic strength, and long-term success. I want to make a note here too, is that this, of all of the groups that I've done, I think that Myrtle Beach was the most optimistic about this process, that you guys are in a pivotal point in the city's history, and this opportunity to address this milestone with a refreshed brand is great, and everybody's optimistic about it. The city should continue to tell its story through social media and word of mouth and engaging visuals like photos and videos, while showcasing its dedication to happy memories and forward-thinking initiatives. Building partnerships and trust will enhance credibility and expand the city's reach. I also wanted to layer in some trends that are happening out in the world of place branding. We always like to see what the world is doing as well, other cities are doing. And obviously there's an emphasis nationwide on authenticity and community engagement. Cities are prioritizing more genuine narratives that reflect unique identities, moving away from generic slogans. Engaging local communities in the branding process, which we did through Momentum and continue to do, ensures that the city's image resonates with both residents and visitors. Modern place branding emphasizes community, ensuring that citizens and visitors are represented. This approach fosters a sense of belonging among residents and attracts visitors seeking unique experiences. So the idea of community can be layered into the strategy. We also have to balance authenticity with commercialization. Striking a balance between promoting a place's genuine identity and creating a marketable image can be challenging. So over-commercialization risks alienating residents and losing the unique aspects that make Myrtle Beach special. And then with more places investing in branding, standing out is increasingly challenging. Competing for the attention of travelers, businesses, and residents requires distinctive, creative, and memorable campaign branding. Often various divisions within cities themselves compete with each other without brand connectivity. So it's important that this effort unites everyone going forward. So everybody is supportive of it and everybody feels ownership in taking part in this process. We then looked at storytelling archetypes. And for those, if you don't know what an archetype is, the archetypes are story frameworks that have been passed down throughout history. You all know the damsel in distress and the hero that rescues the damsel. Those are archetypes that are told in different ways over time. And so things like the creator or the magician or the rebel or the jester or the everyman, these are story frameworks that can help align everybody together. And we had some interesting results. We had two actually that narrowed down that were the most popular across all of the groups. First one is the creator archetype. I use celebrities to make it easier for people to grasp. And so the creator archetype is defined by a deep drive to bring ideas, visions, and innovations to life. These individuals are imaginative, original, and self-expressive, often channeling their emotions, experiences, and perspectives into something tangible and meaningful. They are fueled by a desire to inspire, build, and connect with others. At their best, creatives are visionary, authentic, and innovative. At their core, they seek to leave a lasting legacy in beauty, meaning, and transformation. So Taylor Swift was the celebrity that we used to embody the creator. But also, and a good way to look at these two is one is perhaps pointing towards the future, and one is actually more within the DNA of Myrtle Beach itself. And we use Tom Hanks to represent the regular guy. The regular guy archetype is characterized by relatability, humility, and a strong connection to others. This archetype values authenticity and sense of belonging to a community. They're approachable, down to earth, and strive to make everyone feel equal and accepted. At their best, regular guys are trustworthy, genuine, and unpretentious, embodying the idea that we're all in this together. So let's move into the next phase, which is ambition. And this is, again, our North Star. If we are successful in this effort, how do we want the world to see Myrtle Beach? And ambition is not a mission statement or a tagline or an advertising campaign. It's a succinct phrase that represents our point of view that is the higher order intention of the brand. It should stand the test of time, be easy to see, be believable, and be memorable. So we answer, to get to this, we have a process called ambition composing, which asks 4 questions. What are we here to do? Why is this important to people? What do we want to be? And I always like to layer in a point of view or belief. What should the city of Myrtle Beach's point of view to the world be? So we answered these questions. Our goal is to create a strong, positive, and bold identity for the city of Myrtle Beach that enhances resident pride and quality of life, reframes current perceptions, and fosters a distinct identity and recognition. It's relevant to people because a well-articulated city brand gives residents a sense of belonging and pride. When a city is recognized for unique attributes, whether it's cultural heritage, innovation, vacation vibe, or lifestyle, it fosters a shared identity, encouraging residents to see themselves as ambassadors of their city. Our aspiration is for the city of Myrtle Beach to be the heartbeat of service, transparency, and forward momentum. And our belief as a city entity is the best way to move forward is together. So it's all about unity. So our ambition statement is Myrtle Beach will rise as a bold and unified city, redefining its identity with pride and innovation, fostering a shared sense of belonging, becoming a beacon of progress, community, and forward momentum for all. I deconstruct this a little bit. We're a unified city, we're together as one. This is all about moving forward together, progress and community, and then momentum for all, which is innovative, creative, transparent, and engaging. So how do we bridge our truths from where we are now to that ambition statement? And the momentum idea, again, this is a platform for creative to spring off of. And the momentum idea is serving today, shaping tomorrow. United in purpose, progress, and partnership, achieving more for Myrtle Beach and her citizens. Again, serving today is first and foremost, redefining perceptions, shaping tomorrow, and achieving more. We're more than the city government. We're the heartbeat that connects the past with the present and the future citizens and visitors of Myrtle Beach. So we put this into a narrative because the city of Myrtle Beach deserves a brand that serves and cares for its citizens, fosters a shared identity, encouraging residents and visitors to see themselves as ambassadors of their city. We provide a unified city brand that's a beacon for innovation, dependability, and collaboration in the day-to-day operations of our city. We want to reach Myrtle Beach residents, visitors, internal city audiences, and all stakeholders in the success of the city of Myrtle Beach, which means we are serving today and shaping tomorrow, united in purpose, progress, and partnership, achieving more for the city of Myrtle Beach and her citizens. This is what we call a benefit ladder. On the left side, we have the functional things that the city of Myrtle Beach provides: services, welcoming, friendly nature, accessibility, law and order, innovation, vision, and collaboration. And at the core of this is service and support. But I always like to ladder it up to the right side of the slide, because what does this mean to people? What does these functional things mean to people? I feel pride in my city. I feel part of something bigger. I feel trust. I feel connected. I'm excited about having a new brand, and I'm engaged and interested. And so the core of that is pride and unity. So if service and support are our functional focus, then pride and unity should be our emotional focus. So this is our roadmap. Our truths are we are dedicated public servants who support the citizens of Myrtle Beach, but perceptions linger that we are an unsafe community that hasn't progressed. Our ambition is that Myrtle Beach will rise as a bold and unified city, redefining its identity with pride and innovation, fostering a shared sense of belonging and becoming a beacon of progress, community, and forward momentum for all, which means we're serving today, shaping tomorrow. These are called brand filters or brand descriptors, and these are the 4 or 5 words that actually don't change over time. That we tell our story, we craft the narrative around these ideas. First and foremost is welcoming. We're a friendly and welcoming city. We're innovative, that's creative and flexible and pointed towards the future. We have integrity, honest and transparent, which is, every city, municipality should be. And culture, lifestyle, and attitude of people that live here and work here. And then ultimately, we're public servants to keep the community safe. Our brand personality, and these were very evident in everybody that we talked to there. Heart, we are a entity that has heart. We're proud of Myrtle Beach. We're optimistic about the future. And then as a city government, we're trusted. So these are characteristics that we can weave into the brand narrative going forward. Our formal positioning statement for the new brand is for citizens, stakeholders, and visitors alike. We are a unified city committed to delivering innovative services and unwavering support, fostering a community built on care, trust, and pride. With a bold and progressive vision, we strive to be accessible, forward-thinking, and trusted leader in shaping a vibrant and inclusive future. And then our brand promise is serving today, shaping tomorrow, united in purpose, progress, and partnership, achieving more for Myrtle Beach and her citizens. So that's our strategic framework. Right now, we are in development process of the first round of design. And so we're excited. We can't wait to share that when we narrow it down. We're gonna narrow it down. We're gonna test it among the public in Myrtle Beach, and then before we move forward and get your approval. So any questions, comments, thoughts?
Anything?
I'm excited about moving forward.
I'm just curious, how many people in this room participated in these meetings? So a lot of people in here are represented in all of this. Meredith, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
I'm just excited. I think Andy did a great job. Thank you, Andy. That's, as you can tell, very comprehensive and in-depth presentation, probably the longest one that you'll get throughout this process, but I'm just very excited.
Yes.
Yes. I'm very excited for what happens and kind of where this goes. This will be the launch pad for the new website, for a lot of things around the city. And I think it's representative of all of the changes that are happening, the positive changes.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and now we will welcome Assistant Chief Chris Smith, who's going to talk about the Ocean Boulevard traffic pattern. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, City Council. Appreciate this brief amount of time to give an overview regarding what we call the Summer Emergency Vehicle Access Plan. In police work, we like to use acronyms, so we call it CVAP. So I'll refer to it as CVAP throughout this presentation. In the presentation, I'll discuss the objectives that we developed in 2022 during our assessment period. I'll discuss the perspectives from a public safety standpoint, the impact and success that we've seen along the waterfront area, and then just keep in mind and please understand that this is only one portion of our public safety strategy. And at the end of the presentation, I'll give an example of some other key elements that we utilize. Three main objectives: increase visibility of our uniformed police officers. That's an exceptional deterrent. With the visibility of officers being in the area in uniform, that can pose to be a very successful deterrent for crime or criminal activity, somebody trying to engage in criminal activity. So we want to ensure that our visitors and our residents, business owners, are able to immediately or accessibly see uniformed police officer presence within that area. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the perspective portion of it. Increased line of sight for uniformed officers. When we're talking about public safety, early intervention is a key component. Obviously, we want to be able to intervene at the lowest level. We either want to disperse a crowd or we want to intervene in maybe a disturbance or a disorderly subject prior to events escalating. Understanding that sometimes we do encounter immediate escalation in events. However, this gives us the ability to have a line of sight to be able to intervene prior to those escalating into more major situations for us. And then decreased response times for public safety. Obviously, we have a plethora of different ways that we deploy police officers between bike, foot patrol, in vehicles. We have transport vans. There's a lot of resources. Emergency medical service operates the ambulance, the fire apparatus, ocean rescue, things like that, that we want to ensure that we can stage appropriately. That way our response times to an event is substantially decreased. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the impact and statistical data that support those objectives. So let's talk about the plan just a little bit. If you take a look at the map, so the section of Ocean Boulevard between 9th Avenue and 8th Avenue North is only blocked for vehicle traffic only. Pedestrians can still travel back and forth on the sidewalks offered. but it is blocked for vehicle traffic only. Northbound vehicle traffic approaching 8th Avenue North will turn to travel westbound towards Kings Highway. Anything coming from 16th Avenue North onto Ocean Boulevard will travel southbound only on Ocean Boulevard. That allows the northbound lane of Ocean Boulevard as that line of sight, or the section to where our police officers and our public safety officers can travel to immediately intervene in a quicker time. I do want to note, if you take a look at the map, that there is no restrictions to anything accessible to include parking. We do not restrict any access to any accommodations offered along Ocean Boulevard. You can still accomplish that at any point along Ocean Boulevard in that section. We felt that it was very important to still have vehicle traffic, have the ability to travel along that section of Ocean Boulevard to see, everything that's offered an entertainment area along a waterfront area. So let's take a look at these two pictures. I put these up here because it gives a general perspective from an officer. So if you or really any public safety personnel standing in this portion right here at 9th Avenue North and Ocean Boulevard, if you're actually looking without the plan implemented on the left, you see that there's vehicle traffic in both directions, pedestrians walking on both sides of the sidewalk, east side and west side of Ocean Boulevard. And so the view is extremely limited to both of those portions of the sidewalk. It's actually also limited to vehicle traffic. If you take a look, there's a red motorcycle, but beyond the red motorcycle, it's very difficult to see anything beyond that point. If you take a look at the picture on the right, that allows that lane of access with CVAP in place to have a much greater vantage point or viewpoint from an officer standpoint to be able to actually see pedestrians on both sides of the sidewalk and also a greater distance at vehicles in that distance. And our officers have the ability to respond much quicker in the event that they do see something or hear something, using their senses to be able to intervene in a quicker response. Few images that I'll go through are going to be the before and after implementation. This is well before, but this is a look in the section of Mr. Joe White Avenue along Ocean Boulevard with heavy congestion of both vehicle and pedestrians along the sidewalks. As you can see, vehicles, golf carts, both directions, also turning into the middle median section. It greatly reduces our ability to be able to navigate safely, especially with the numerous sidewalks and crosswalks that go across Ocean Boulevard, to be able to respond in an efficient manner. And again, I'll get to those statistics here in just a few to show you just the difference that it actually makes. A few other images. Again, Ocean Boulevard during the later evening hours. This is, again, traffic in both directions, basically stop and go, pedestrians on sidewalks. Again, limiting our ability to be able to respond in an efficient manner, but also our perspective and from a vantage point, again, standing alongside or on the sidewalk amongst a group of visitors or a higher amount of pedestrian traffic on the sidewalks can make it much more difficult for us to be able to see things that are occurring at a greater distance. And then this is image post CVAP. So CVAP is implemented. This is southbound traffic, Ocean Boulevard only. As you can see, officers have the ability to patrol and operate along the northbound lanes of Ocean Boulevard. If we see a traffic violation, we want to do a traffic stop safely. We obviously have the room without causing a traffic congestion on the southbound lanes of traffic with the middle median and the northbound lane. And our officers have the ability to have that accessibility, the visibility, and the more efficient response times in that manner. And this is where we assess those three main objectives that I had initially talked about. And these are the statistics that back the success that we're seeing from those objectives that we identified. So initially, it was brought to our attention that it's very difficult to see police officers. So obviously we wanted to assess that in the year 2022 to see why that was kind of a concern that was being brought to our attention. And obviously we constantly every year assess to be better at the public safety that we're offering our community. And so one of those concerns we saw was, well, officer visibility is very difficult. I just want to point out, since CVAP has been implemented, proactive policing has been on a substantial increase. If you look at the chart here, the orange line indicates self-initiated officer response to calls for service, which is drastically increased as opposed to a citizen making a phone call for whether that be a loitering or a disturbance or whatever that call for service may be. The difference and the consistency from 2022 through 2024 with CVAP implemented has drastically increased our officers' proactiveness to be able to, for early intervention, as opposed to the decline, a great decline of nearly 3,000 calls for service from an actual citizen-generated call for service. I'll leave that up there for just a second for y'all to take a look at.
So quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you go back to that slide? So the totals here for this trend are year-round?
That's correct.
It's the total. So when this is in place and when it's not, is the total?
That is correct, yes. This is year-round totals. However, statistically, the number and the volume is higher for, obviously, our peak tourist season. But yes, that's correct. And then we'll talk about waterfront nuisance calls for service. These calls for service have significantly decreased from the year 2019 at 4,346 nuisance types of calls for service to 2024 have declined to 2009, which is a 53.8% reduction in nuisance calls for service. These include disturbance disorderly, loitering, loud music, drinking in public, public intoxication, soliciting, trespassing, pizza flyer violations, things of those nature. Again, with officers being more proactive and be able to address these calls for service, or officers being more visible within the area, is a deterrent to these potential calls that we may have encountered. And I see a substantial reduction in those types of calls for service. Loitering showed the most dramatic decrease of 78.8%. It went from 1,106 to 234 incidences in 2004. Typically, people engaging in criminal activity tend to like to remain anonymous. And with that becoming more of a challenge to remain anonymous, we're able to potentially deter that activity and move them along instead of loitering in a specific area, which tends to become where we see more of an issue generated. And then we'll talk about efficiency in our response times. Again, like I said before, response times is critical. And we don't necessarily put it into big perspective, but when we're encountering a situation or a critical incident, or we have to take life-saving measures from a public safety standpoint, whether that be medical attention or police intervention, our response absolutely matters. And so when we look at the statistical average, this is an average, again, over the course of each of these years for our actual times to respond to an incident has drastically declined. I was actually impressed last year. I gave the same presentation when I saw the reduction from 2 minutes 27 seconds to 2 minutes 6 seconds. And then I see this year when we generate the statistics and our evaluation for our objectives that what we want to ensure we're meeting, down to 1 minute and 47 seconds. Again, seconds matter, early intervention matters to be more proactive. We have to get over we only respond to crime to we need to prevent crime. And I see that when I'm looking at these statistics as they drastically reduce. A few of the frequently asked questions that we do get for the actual CVAP is, why do we set CVAP during inclement weather? I have been living in the Myrtle Beach area since probably 2004, and I have consistently seen weather go from thunderstorm, crazy winds to it's bright and sunny out pretty consistently. And so I wish I had a immediate prediction of what the weather may look like throughout the entire course of a shift during the nighttime hours or during the early evening through nighttime. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily have that ability. But I say that just because we see maybe inclement weather for a short period of time, that doesn't mean that it doesn't get better. And then when it gets better, it's already too late because the volume of pedestrian and vehicle traffic has already increased to where now we, as public safety, have to play catch up to implement the CVAP traffic management plan. A few other things. It also increases the potential for surf hazards. And as we know, we have beachfront between the sections that we saw on the map for when CVAP is enacted and in place. And when ocean rescue or our beach patrol officers do have to, again, when time matters, seconds matter, life-saving matters, this allows us to have the equipment and the efficient response that we need to be able to provide those life-saving measures. As we know, we have surf in distress or swimmer in distress, or where we have to take those rescue measures, and we want to ensure that we can respond effectively and obviously have our emergency medical services staged and in that area to be able to provide those services. And then why begin CVAP at 4 p.m.? Frequently asked question. Both visually and statistically backed, 4 p.m., between the hours of 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Tends to be, I say it like this, is beachgoers tend to finish up their, as visitation occurs on the beach, they finish up on the beach, they go, they get dressed, and they want to plan for an evening of entertainment. And understanding that time frame provides us the ability to have the complete setup for CVAP, which takes approximately 30 minutes to have that set up. We also want to ensure that during that time period, we have our wayfinding apps updated. That includes Waze and Google, so that way, as our visitors and our residents are planning for the night of entertainment, they can utilize those apps and see that they need to navigate around that. It'll show them routes and ways to get to any of our accommodations or our areas of visitation throughout the waterfront area or the city in that matter. So we want to, that is the reason for that section of, or that time frame of setup. And then we want to have CVAP set up just prior to our oncoming night shift. Our night shift changes at 5:45 p.m., and we want to ensure that we have that setup completed before that shift change, so our night shift can begin answering calls for service that are actually pending and ready to go. And then we'll look at the data that supports that. So this is a chart that was developed that shows visitation by the hour between the areas of 6th Avenue and 16th Avenue. This is 2023 is indicated in the blue, and the 2024 data is indicated in red. It shows if you take a look at mainly the 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., we see that drastic number of increase in the volume of visitation that we have along the waterfront area. And so just from our perspective of what we see, like I was explaining to you, from beachgoers to preparing for an evening out to going out, that time frame actually fit into the visitation data that we were able to generate for that. And again, like I said in the beginning of the presentation, obviously CVAP is only one component of the public safety strategy that we implement. Obviously, we continue to increase the visibility with our officers. We do continue our real-time crime monitoring with our camera systems to be able to identify congregations, large groups, or any incidences, so we have active real-time crime monitoring along the waterfront and throughout our entire city. We do utilize intelligence-led policing, so we can use hotspot maps. We can identify areas where we're seeing like a more crime trend or more additional areas where we need to put our focus for our public safety. And then crime prevention through environmental design. Obviously, we have our regulatory unit that will meet and consult with establishments to be able to aid them in helping out with that crime prevention through their design of the outlay of their establishments. And then again, continued partnerships throughout our community, shared responsibility. We just talked about branding. I'm part of the First and Service Facilitation, and that's what we constantly communicate, is working together to be successful, and obviously we all want to do that. So, any questions?
So what time, so you're starting at 4 o'clock, what time does that go until?
So we go from 4 p.m. until approximately 1:30 in the morning, between the hours of 1:30 to 2 a.m., and that's the time that our beautification process starts. Obviously, we want to ensure that the sidewalks and the roadways are cleaned up for our visitors and tourists along the waterfront at that time, so we have street sweep and then sidewalks cleaned at that hour of the morning.
Okay. And also, so I think last year it was the first year that we blocked off that one strip right from Peach's Corner to
Between 9th and 8th?
9th and 8th, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So last year was the first year we did that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Started in 2022.
Okay, so But is it working?
That is working as so staging area for equipment. I talked about the numerous different styles of vehicles. It's another area of questions that we had. Best way I can kind of explain that section is it allows traffic that is traveling, because we put the lights, those actual traffic control devices are on flash, so that way traffic is consistently flowing. It's not a very fast flow because obviously it's kind of a point where it has to slow, but traffic continuously flows. That section, when we have a high volume and we need like transport vehicles or vehicles that have particular equipment that we need to provide some form of life-saving measures or we need to intervene in an incident, that is a section to where those vehicles can actually stage and we can have them safely staged there. It also prevents both lanes of traffic, northbound and southbound, to not merge into one another to prevent that traffic from actually congesting. So that way we have that lane of travel. So
And
if
the
that
reason,
answers your question.
the only reason I'm asking that is, you put stuff in place hoping to deter this or make stuff safer or for whatever reason. You have a reason for doing things. And sometimes we still have to tweak things every once in a while. So that's why I was asking if
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that we looked at was, and from a standpoint of traffic control, the 8th Avenue North and Ocean Boulevard with 2 lanes, basically 1 lane northbound Ocean Boulevard from 8th Avenue North making a left-hand turn to go towards Kings or turning westbound, merging with southbound traffic. What we don't want to do, obviously with every decision, there's potential consequence. And so we try to predict what we do, what could be an outcome. And one of those outcomes is obviously we don't want to cause any kind of safety hazard for our motor vehicle traffic. And so that was one of the assessments that we had made, and we had deemed that it would be a more safe condition to have that actually blocked off on both sides. And then they can just, travel around Kings Highway right back into the waterfront area. Because that's typically what we see with traffic travels anyway. It's kind of
Gotcha.
circle the loop. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to be
No,
critical.
no. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be
Hopefully that
critical,
answers
but,
your question. Yes, ma'am.
whenever we need to tweak something
That's
to
right.
make stuff better, that we need to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, thank you.
Hey, Chris, if you would, I'm looking at the hourly visit chart that you just had up.
Yes, sir.
And one of the questions I've had people our business owners to approach me about was, hey, do we need to start at 4? And I'm looking at your numbers here, and when you look at 4 and you look at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it's not that big of a difference. When you start going to 8 o'clock, and it's a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's visually, you're talking about, and I'm estimating, so by the chart, the visual of the chart, from 4, you're talking about a 2% increase in volume or visitation from 4 to 5, if I were to estimate, because it's 4%, I'm sorry, a 1% increase between 4 and 5, and then upwards going towards 6% at 6 p.m. Really what we want to accomplish is to have that setup in place prior to that extreme increase in the volume that we're seeing. And so typically what we do see is that the volume increase is in the central portion of the waterfront, typically between the areas of 9th Avenue North through about 17th Avenue North, 16th Avenue North. That's where the volume spikes. And so having that plan enacted and in place, again, prior to shift change, is extremely important for the efficiency for our officers coming onto shift to be able to actually respond to the calls that they have and be in their areas to start their proactive patrols. And again, this takes about 30 minutes for that process to set up, and we don't start that until 4 o'clock. So we want to ensure that we have that set up and in place when the vehicle and pedestrian traffic is at the lowest point during the afternoon hours going into before that spike occurs. Does that help you answer that a little bit?
Yeah. I guess the other question is, are there incidents or calls for service going along with that to, I guess, justify the 4 o'clock?
calls for service as. It's, I mean, I
Or,
guess we could do certainly look into a statistical call for service volume between a certain hour. I think that's just going to be a dependent basis on the day. And that's another hard predictable factor because, you know, we can forecast and maybe look at certain areas that may have a higher increase in some criminal activity or calls for service, whatever that may look like. But that may be a anomaly to where it'll be very difficult to predict at 6 o'clock there's no crime, or, you know, like a lesser call for service. The biggest impact is to not have an impact, have the most minimal impact in traveling motorists and pedestrian traffic movement during that time of the lower visitation, pre that visitation, getting so far to where vehicles at stop and go, both northbound and southbound, and pedestrian traffic is very heavy on both the east and west side of Ocean Boulevard, and having that implemented prior to that happening. Because I think that's the more success that we will see if we have that in place before. So we're not intervening, we're not putting our officers in a risk of during setup, we're not putting any of the motorists at risk while we're doing the setup. It's a time period of lesser motor vehicle and pedestrian traffic pre that bump up that we see along that chart. I think, you know, if we waited till 6 o'clock, we're already up just under 6% increase, percent of visits, up beyond 6%, and then by 8 o'clock, we're almost at our peak. And so what we don't want to have is a situation where we're now trying to play catch up instead of focusing on that visibility and being sure that we're intervening at the early hour of the night prior to, so we can kind of set the tone of what the evening looks like and make sure we're keeping the peace, honestly, maintaining and keeping the peace. That's the priority.
And I think, Mike, I don't want to second guess you, but the biggest complaint I've heard from businesses is the 4 o'clock.
Sure, okay.
And I understand we have to put public safety first, but do you see a way, and I'm just asking, I'm not trying to say this is what you need to do because I don't do your job. That's what we trust you all for.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way that you can see to maybe change that time a little bit? It takes 30 minutes to set up, to kind of give the business owners a little bit more of a comfortability of it not starting so early in the day. And if that answer is no, then it's no. I'm just asking if that's even an option to consider.
Sure. Best answer, I think, right now is I think we've made some valid points of just assessing and evaluating. I think an assessment and evaluation of the calls for service during that time period. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like every decision, if I were to make a decision standing here at the podium, I think every decision may have a potential consequence, and I just want to ensure that we make the best decision based on the public safety of that. But I think it's a portion of the evaluation process for sure, an assessment of it.
And I do think it's important. I was talking with Michelle Plyler earlier, and I've been talking with some of the business owners. Constant communication, I think, is greatly needed. And I think when summer's over, I don't think we should try to do anything now.
Right.
But I have been talking with the business owners about some small group meetings after summer where we can have open communication about what we're doing down there and why, and giving them this type of data.
Sure.
And showing them and listening
Yes.
to what their concerns and their needs are.
Yes, ma'am. And just to note also, we have had pre and post business community meetings. I've attended several. I've actually presented the same, very similar presentation during a business summit. Actually, in 2022, the way that it originated and kind of had our assessment moving forward of what can we do. Obviously, we want to do things as better than we did the year before, and that's what we all strive to do. And one of the topics that was brought up was the visibility of officers. And one of the analogies I frequently use is if anyone's attended or goes to a concert or a large event where there's a big congregation of people, it's very difficult to see the people that are 5 people to your left or 5 people to your right. And so I equate that from a perspective viewpoint or vantage point from public safety perspective. And so that was really the kicking off point because we heard areas of concerns, but we obviously want to continue doing that. I just thought it was important make note that we do the post and pre-season meetings to ensure that we're trying to understand from different perspectives and making the best decisions possible.
I'm wondering, in those meetings, have we taken what some of the businesses have recommended and actually implemented any of those things? Or are we mostly just presenting information and not necessarily? I think that there's a level of frustration that I hear from some business owners that they feel like they're giving input, but that there's no result in their input. So I think that's really, really important at this point, especially as we're talking about the timing of when this happens.
Yeah, I think that's we have the ability to evaluate the timing. You know, when I attend meetings, I obviously, just kind of like the answer that I provided, I don't want to make a swift decision. We obviously want to evaluate it, and we go back, you know, in the slides for response time. Obviously, we want to evaluate it. We evaluate it from a public safety standpoint with the understanding that sometimes we need to use the term merge perspectives and kind of see it from a different lens. And we obviously will keep that into consideration, and we'll evaluate it, and I think we can try to work on some ways that we can bridge that.
And I know for a fact, y'all have had several of them, and I've been to a couple of them myself.
Yes, ma'am.
And getting the participation of the businesses there is the chore. I mean, because you show up and there's maybe a handful there, but then we all get phone calls
Yes,
from
ma'am.
business owners or managers that did not show up. And so we all have to get on the same page. So somehow they're going to have to participate also and not just, and give feedback that way when we do have a meeting. But I know you guys have tried.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I have 5 or 6. Okay, this might not be the answer to this one today, but what I would like to hear is what is the staffing, actual, not people that can respond, what is the actual staffing for the boulevard between 16th Avenue North and 3rd Avenue South? From 10 o'clock in the morning to when you want to start this process at 4. And then what is the staffing from that point on till whatever time in the wee hours of the morning?
Sure.
And I would like to have that on a daily basis, especially on the weekends, okay? And then understanding about turning traffic, I've done that a little bit in my younger life. But what effect does turning the traffic at 9th Avenue North and turning the traffic at 8th Avenue North, what effect does that have on Highway 17, where the bulk of the visitors that come into the city of Myrtle Beach are trying to go back and forth to whatever destination they may choose? And how is that being addressed? Because you have the busiest area in this city, just about it right there, people going north and south. And so how was that dealt with? That can come today, or it can come at another time?
No, I'm fully ready to answer that question. So that's consistently monitored, both 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, via our real-time crime or our milestone camera footage, as well as an officer monitoring the traffic flow in that area. That intersection is actually controlled by the traffic control device. What we tend to see is the traffic control devices between Mr. Joe White Avenue through 8th Avenue North tends to be, and I know, years of experience, you've seen that tends to kind of create, it's kind of a bottleneck area for traffic flow. And so having that intersection there with the traffic control device, we have seen minimal impacts. Now, obviously, it increases the volume of traffic, but between 9th to Mr. Joe White Avenue traffic control device, those timings have flown traffic through there. We do have plan of action in place if we have to specifically direct traffic to be able to alleviate any kind of congestion within that area.
Okay, next question, what effect does the turning the traffic at 8th Avenue, turning the traffic 9th Avenue, what effect does that have on Flag Street and Withers as far as the amount of traffic now that's on those two streets that?
All available. So if you're talking, if we look at 8th Avenue North between Flag, York Street, obviously those are all accessible. There's paid parking, there's parking. All of that is accessible for all traffic flow that are going in those areas. Same thing with 9th Avenue North, Withers Drive, Withers Alley, Chester Street, all of that is fully accessible. There's no restriction to the traffic. All parking is open for traffic flow. You know, we want pedestrian visitation, and so those are all accessible. And from the standpoint of a public safety, we obviously have those monitored during the weekend hours, which goes back to your initial question for staffing. We ensure that back streets, obviously parking lot, congregation, and we have some bars and nightlife type of accommodations that we obviously monitor throughout the evening hour.
Would you say that when I'm asking that question, I'm
Sure.
asking the question about vehicle traffic
Sure.
on all of those streets as a result of that normally may not be there
Right.
with turning the traffic?
Yeah, we have seen minimal impact to maybe a slight increase in the volume, but minimal impact to any sort of safety concern for traffic backing up or congestion.
Okay, if vehicles are traveling north on the boulevard, at 8th Avenue, you're turning the traffic to go to 17 or wherever.
Yes, sir.
Are vehicles that would want to park in the street in at 8th Avenue, are they allowed to go in there and park?
Street end at 8th Avenue, yes. So the intersection is actually closed on the north side of the 8th Avenue intersection. So you can still make the left-hand turn, and the spaces, I'm assuming you're talking about on the north side of the roadway of 8th Avenue North, are accessible.
So if at 8th Avenue, they can make a right-hand turn into the street in at 8th Avenue and park?
Into the parking and that end, yes.
Yep, okay. All right, next question is, I want to go back to the 4 o'clock traffic change.
Sure.
When did this start every year? When do y'all start?
What year did this start?
The Friday and Saturday night, 4 o'clock traffic change. What time of the year do you start that?
This begins, we enact this typically, it's varies slightly because Easter fell a little bit later in the year. So typically what we start is at the spring break time or Easter, which is the week prior to that. So it's normally in about the 3rd week of April, depending on when those high volume weekends begin.
And then the next question, follow-up question to that, is it a necessity to do this every weekend? Is it a necessity to do this every weekend, Friday and Saturday night at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, especially when I look at what's taking place in the city this past few months? Our visitation in the city has been down. And so let me say this here, there's nobody's going to support law enforcement more than I do.
Yes, sir.
But I just think that sometimes we have to be flexible in how we do things. And I think, just from my perspective, looking at this for the last couple of months now, I firmly believe just there are weekends and maybe even a day or two more than weekends when this traffic pattern needs to be done. But I do question why it has to be every weekend, and then why does it have to start at 4 o'clock? If we already have officers on duty on the boulevard, if up till 4 p.m. or up to 6, why couldn't we be flexible to maybe adjust this time and then be flexible? Do we have to do this every Friday and Saturday night? Seems like to me, just what I seen just for Memorial Weekend, from Friday night versus Saturday night, I think our bigger issue comes on Saturday night with our day trippers. And
You bring, I'm gonna kind of answer, I think maybe from our perspective, use that as an example. You look at Friday night in comparison to Saturday and day trippers, very valid point, and that's sort of a unpredictable portion of it that I went back to, or I was referring to prior, answering another question, is we talk about what weekends we need to start, what weekends we should and shouldn't, deploy the CVAP or traffic management plan. We have spring breaks. Spring breaks are at different weekends from South Carolina to North Carolina, different school districts. We roll from spring breaks into an Easter weekend, extended weekend, a lot of visitation, higher volume. We go from Easter weekend spring breaks into this year, quite frankly, rolling, because it was kind of at the end of the month when we had all of that, rolling right into our Memorial weekends, and we have senior weeks in there for high school graduations throughout the state of South Carolina. Even though we see major events, maybe Memorial Day weekend, CCMF, things of that nature, but we're seeing that influx pretty consistent throughout the weekends of visitation. And then day trips typically see a much more big influx during the evening hours, and in which case sometimes it might be a Friday evening, maybe it's a Saturday evening, and then Saturday at late night hours, traffic, early morning, once we run our beautification process, traffic kind of goes and everyone returns back to their hometown or prospective locations. And so it's a great question, because it would be wonderful if we could know that exact moment that we're having this influx of day trippers. And you are exactly right. What you saw visually between Friday and Saturday night may have been a substantial difference, but I think that's also what we're seeing potentially on a Friday and Saturday throughout like our spring break visitation and our senior weeks and our, it's kind of a chain of events throughout those weekends. And we just want to make sure that we're consistently providing that public safety.
but historically,
That's right.
what's taking place is we get the larger crowd
Sure.
on Saturday with the day trippers. So that's the reason I'm just throwing that out there. I do want to ask one other question, and then I'll stop. How receptive are our business owners to what's taking place with I understand that this is 100 years ago, but in my younger career as a police officer, we were walking the boulevard.
Sure.
We were going in, talking, visiting with the business owners, and getting input from them, not just a one-time or a two-time or three-time a year. We were basically in these shops, in these places nightly, and getting feedback from them. Are our officers doing that today?
I would say yes, our officers are doing it. I know I've had firsthand experience because I do the same, and I frequently keep in contact with numerous. I can't say that I get all positive reviews. I wouldn't stand here and tell you that. I get substantially mixed reviews, and I think I get mixed participation when we do offer a time to meet to be able to truly evaluate and assess. I think that it's a vast array of different perspectives between who thinks that the plan does extremely well. I have to view it from obviously my position within the public safety realm, but I think it's more so a mixed review to answer your question to the best of my ability. We have very people that are very supportive and think that it makes a big difference in surveys for do people feel safe, and I think the majority do, and my perspective is increased presence and response times is a key component to this, and I will stand by that because I think that my focus is to make sure it's a safe area for everybody to visit and for our residents, obviously. So
I 100% agree with increased presence.
yes, sir.
So one question I would have that I would like to request, I appreciate the hourly visit data,
Yes, ma'am.
but because it's just all clumped together, I think based on what Councilman Louder is asking, and I think as we really need to approach this with an open mind to be able to respond appropriately to our businesses on Ocean Boulevard, that we actually analyze this data, one, on a weekly basis, so we can see clearly the data's gonna look different in April than it does in July or May. Certain weekends are gonna look different. I just think that putting all this together in one slide and clumping the data together doesn't give us good enough information. And I often see, I mean, it's much easier just to throw something out that we think solves the problem, and where we could be maybe a little more discerning on how we're implementing this. So I think that would be very, very useful and helpful in conversations with our business owners as well.
One last thought. Sorry. When I'm on the boulevard, one thing that troubles me that I see, and it's kind of almost consistent, I see groups of officers together, especially Memorial Weekend. We were there together. We saw a number of different areas where there would be 5, 6, or more officers standing right here together. Wouldn't it be better if those officers were spread out in pairs in these areas? And I realize some of these are officers from different jurisdictions, and they may not have the authority for an arrest maybe in the city of Myrtle Beach versus in their jurisdiction. But if we were paired with officers who do have, whether it could be a county police officer, it could be whoever, city of Myrtle Beach police officer, and then that could spread that out even more in these areas where businesses, visitors, whatever the case may be, would actually see more officers.
Yeah, sure. I think, just to kind of piggyback on that, I think it just all depends on the circumstances at that particular moment, which I don't know what those, I don't know if it was outside agencies partnering. I can tell you that on a weekend basis, our deployment is per zone or area. And obviously we have officers assigned depending on whether they're on bike patrol or they're on a vehicle side by side, or they're on a foot beat, or they're in a vehicle or posted in a transport vehicle, kind of, you have knowledge of from your experience. But we do have officers deployed in that manner in beats across the waterfront sector. To answer that specifically, I'd have to look into the circumstances, obviously, for the maybe outside agencies. Maybe they were dealing with something where a larger crowd, and obviously the ratio for officers to the incident or whatever they're handling or addressing may be dictated with that. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but Memorial Weekend, weren't all of the outside agencies partnered with our own officers?
Sure. Yeah, they do partner with our officers. They work in a team based on our operational plan, but it all depends. Also, you have to take into consideration, maybe we were responding to a call for service to where it may not have been a call for service that warranted a large group of officers to make presence. So it just, I think the situation depends on the need for manpower in that particular incident, for sure. So, but yes, to answer your question, yes, ma'am.
Something I brought up during Memorial Weekend, and I talked with Fox and Josh Bruger about it. I asked if we had ever done a SEPTED evaluation on Ocean Boulevard between 16th North and 3rd South. And I think it's important. I know that we can't make every property owner care about what their property looks like and how well lit it is. But I think that there are things that we could do to possibly enhance Ocean Boulevard even further, more than we already have. I think part of that is looking at the lighting with our street lights, possibly going to brighter bulbs. there were a lot of really dark areas that I think we need to look at and address with our partners, be it the Chamber of Commerce, Santee Cooper, and look at things that we can do.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and community partnerships, I think it leeways right into that for sure. I think I agree with that. I think there's more we can do, obviously, to do assessments, and certainly crime prevention is what we had tried to achieve, number one goal.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chris, this CVAP plan, y'all sit down and discuss it occasionally, right?
Yes, sir. Pretty frequently.
Pretty frequently. And people give you ideas of what would make it better.
Sure.
In their view, what would make it better.
Yes, sir.
Now, if someone gave you an idea, and y'all sat down and discussed it, and y'all thought that would make the plan better, would you implement that idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will be very upfront if I don't think that idea would work also, so. go
I
both
don't have
ways.
any ideas. Because I don't do police work, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir.
That is everything on our agenda for today's workshop. However, we do have several executive session items. The first is to discuss negotiations concerning contractual arrangements involving the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Next is to receive legal advice relating to code enforcement efforts concerning Coral Sands and Rainmaker Holdings LLC. Next is to receive legal advice concerning changes to the oceanfront encroachment ordinance. Then we have an executive session to discuss property acquisition in the Arts and Innovation District. I will recuse myself from that item because I am the property owner. And then lastly, an executive session to discuss contractual negotiations regarding the lease of city-owned property on 9th Avenue North. I will also recuse myself from that because I am on the board of the potential leasee. We will invite Fox Simons, Will Bryan, Brian Tucker, Josh Bruger, Michelle Schumpert, Marla Bell, Meredith Denary, and Amy Newshafer. May I please have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go in the side room?
For one of them, yes.
Okay. Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. See everyone next Tuesday.
All right, sports fans.